connection with your audience. So, in making a connection, there's several ways. One is you can get people to trust you because of your authority. Like maybe you're an expert in the field, or you've had a huge company forever. And so people know who you are. However, unless you're very famous, it's very hard to have this kind of authority. But another way that you can quickly connect with the people in front of you is by using some kind of story to talk about your personal experience. And it builds a connection. So today, we're actually going to tell some stories. But before we begin, there's a very important thing. In order for people to tell stories, they have to feel comfortable. And today, you're not only going to tell stories of, times that you've succeeded or times you've done very well, but more importantly, you're going to tell stories about a time you failed, about when everything was not going well, when everything was not good. So, in a very short time, to create an environment, we have to make a promise. The promise is the same as the Las Vegas promise. Does anyone know what the slogan for Las Vegas is? No. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Which means that when people go to Las Vegas, they go there to have a lot of fun, and they do a lot of stupid things. More importantly, in Las Vegas, all alcohol, beer, wine, whiskey, is free. So, a lot of people go there and do crazy things. And the goal is, whatever happens there, your friends or whoever you go with, you don't talk about it. So say, today, in order for people to tell their stories and feel comfortable, whatever story you hear here today stays here. Alright? So, whatever you hear stays here. Someone talks about, the worst breakup story and how sad they were. Don't go after class and be like, did you hear about them? Their girlfriend left them. Haha, what a loser. Not okay. Stays here, says here, stays here. What we're going to look at today is three main pieces. One is we're going to look at materials. What do you need in order to prepare stories? Then we're going to look at building stories. I'm going to show you two story arcs that are very common in the way of telling a story. These are the way movies tell stories. These are the way books tell stories. And then we're going to share. So there's no point in, talking about storytelling and then nobody talks. So, the first thing that we're going to get with is not the happy things. We're going to start with failure stories. The reason we start with failure stories is because failure stories actually build more connection than anything else. How many people know how many people can tell me Bill Gates' life story? Everyone knows who Bill Gates is, right? Richest man in the world. Anyone tell me his life story? What he did? Create Microsoft. And then? Alright, there we go. That's it. Everything we know about Bill Gates is this. He's born, he makes Microsoft, he's the richest man in the world. That's it. Story over. Alright? How many people know about Steve Jobs' life? Everyone knows who Steve Jobs is? Yes. And after he dropped out he got fired from Apple, what did he do? Which company? Yeah, Pixar. And then what? Stays an apple until when? Until he dies. Alright, so Bill Gates, we know two things. Makes Microsoft, richest man in the world. Steve Jobs builds Apple, gets fired from Apple, makes Pixar, goes back to Apple, Apple becomes the largest company in the world, and he dies. Now, one of the main reasons that there are many, many books about Steve Jobs, and a lot of people know more about his story, is simply this. Steve Jobs' failures are easier to connect with. It's very hard to connect with Bill Gates and feel like, what does it feel to be the richest man in the world? People can imagine, people can dream about what that is. But the story itself is not that interesting. But there are a lot of books, there's a lot of movies about Steve Jobs' life because it's easier to understand someone who seems to have failed. Look at most of the movies that you ever watch, especially Hollywood movies. At some point, it doesn't matter if you're a normal person or it doesn't matter if you're a superhero. There has to be a low point. There has to be a point where everything goes wrong, everything they do is wrong, and then it goes forward. Because this is a more compelling way to understand other people. So, the first thing we're going to discuss is failures. Because I'm mean, I don't ever tell my own failure story. I tell my business partner's failure. Because I think it's funny. Last week, 2 weeks ago, my business partner was sitting in the back of the sofa. And outside of my wife, I think Zona probably has the best English of anyone I know in time. And the reason she has the best English is not because her grammar is really good or not because her pronunciation is very fluid. It is because she actually can speak the way that most native speakers use words. We use a lot of slang, we use a lot of movie and music references. The way we talk is actually not grammatically correct all the time. But we use a lot of cultural references. And so Zona has spent a lot of time with foreigners and understanding cultural references. Zona graduated from NTU, their foreign language. But most people assume, and then she also studied abroad in San Francisco. Now most people would hear that and go, oh, in Taiwan, she must have started learning English really early, go to an English kindergarten, a lot of grammar schools, to get into NTU's foreign language. In fact, she didn't do any of those things. And her English was really, really bad when she went into NTU. The only reason she went into the English department is because her father convinced her that if she wanted to study Chinese literature, she should not put it as her first choice after her test. In fact, if she wants to study Chinese literature, probably she's not going to get her first choice. She's going to get her second or third choice. So he told her, put foreign language first, and then put Chinese literature after. So Zona said, oh, okay, it's probably true. So she put foreign language first. And what happened? She became a foreign language student. But her English was not very good. So when she went into the university, she was very nervous. Most of her classmates would talk in English, they would go to Starbucks and drink and practice their English. So, the first day, Zona shows up to a class. They have to give, their professor tells them, you need to recite Shakespeare. In fact, you have to do the Hamlet Shakespeare's have to, does anyone know that? To be or not to? That is the question. Two things happen. One, Zona's English name used to be Jane. But when she went into university, she felt that if her name starts with a J, she has to go very early. So she looked in a book and said, I'm going to change my name to a Z. I'm going to be the very last person to go. And so she finds a name, Zona. Ah, I can accept Zona. She goes into the class and the teacher says, usually we start with A. But today, we're going to start in the back and start with the last person. So Zona, come up here. So Zona goes to the front of the class. And she starts her soliloquy. And it looks a little like this. To pee or not to pee. And in the middle of the class, the professor just goes, stop, wait, no. To pee or not to pee? That's not a question. That's a problem. This is the very first day of the class. And she just destroyed it. Till now, she gets upset every time she tells that story. This is why I tell her. But for her, that became the motivation to change the way she looks at language. She didn't want to study grammar. So when she went to the US, she actually took no classes she was supposed to take. She would take things like dance class, art class, pottery, poetry. She would take classes that forced her to talk to other students that don't focus on the language and actually understand the culture. But it started from this place where she was so embarrassed by her inability to use English properly that she decided to learn the culture and understand the culture instead. But this is where it's like talking about your failure. What was the worst day that you've ever had? What's the worst mistake you've ever had? Sad times, embarrassed, frustrated. Using these things can help you build connections. Okay. My third business partner, who is now actually very successful, who used to be the English speechwriter for Tsai Ing-wen, who was the English speechwriter for the Taiwan Nobel Prize, talks about his worst day was the day in America when you enter college is a little different. You have to send an application form to the college you want to go to, and then they will give you a letter saying they accept you or not accept you. In one day, my partner got back 13 letters, all rejection. No university took it. One day, 13 letters. But he uses this motivation to turn around and completely change the way that he studies. So these failures can be an important turning point. So what I'm going to do is, all right, find a partner. Find a partner, and I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes. Each person will get 5 minutes. And I want you to think about a failure story. Not a little bit, it's kind of like sad. Last week I forgot my pencil and then my teacher was unhappy because I don't have a pencil. It's not a failure story. I want you to think of a very serious moment in your life that you would consider failure. Whether it be a really terrible day. What was the worst day you ever had? Alright? And again, my partner, worst day ever is 13 colleges said, do not come here. That's bad. You know, what's the worst mistake that you've ever made? What's a sad time? And not sad would be like, I wanted to go see the Justice League movie, but then I had to do extra homework. So sad. Isn't that sad? An embarrassing story, like my partner, to pee or not to pee. So, do this, think for a moment, and then share with the other person. Share this story. The story is going to last about 2 or 3 minutes. You don't need to go deep into details. But when you're thinking about your story, don't just think about the fact. The fact is, on this day, this thing happened. So sad. Think about the emotions that occurred that day. Maybe when the day started, not such a big deal, just a normal day. Or maybe the beginning of the day, very, very happy. But then something terrible happened. Think about the emotional things that happened. So I'll give you about 10 minutes. Talk to a partner. Share these stories. If you don't have a partner, go find one. Somewhere behind you. And again, here becomes the fun and exciting part. Can I get a volunteer to come share their failure story to class? I have done this every semester. No students have died. Everyone's happy. So, can I get a volunteer? Just come share your failure story with the class. They will not talk about it after the class. We just want to feel a connection to it. A brave soul, brave volunteer. No one? No one? Worst day, your best day? I'm sure there's someone brave enough. Every semester, someone is brave enough. Share your story. No, everyone's looking away. I don't exist. No one? No one? Want to share your story? There's not too many of you. I can see everybody here. Oh, brave souls to share failure stories. Come on. Many people will understand you better. Really, this class should be done in like a big circle. Go on. Go on. Alright, you'll have a time that you can share after. Because everyone will have to talk at some point. Alright. The next thing that we want to do is what most people assume a story is, a success story. But what I want you to think about in a success story is just the best day, a proud moment, a time that things went really, really well. A breakthrough. Here's my fun and exciting, happiest moment. It's also a very, very embarrassing moment. It's the day that I proposed to my wife. My wife and I were friends for about 1.5 years. We both had a friend who was one of my co-workers, introduced. But I lived in Chiayi. My wife lived in Taipei. So when we were friends for about 1.5 years, and then we decided to start dating, and we dated for a year. And I decided that I was going to propose to her on our 1-year dating anniversary. But I had, well, I say many, but it's not like many, super many. I had many girlfriends before. Not super many, many. Several, a few. But with every girlfriend, I had always thought about getting married, but the way I thought about it is like, if this changes, if we get a better job, or, I lived in Taiwan or in America, if we decide where to live, then we can get married. There's always many, many, many reasons before we could get married. But with my wife, it was the first time I didn't care. I I didn't care where she was, I didn't care where I was, I didn't care how much money we had. This was the person. And the first time I had this feeling was like maybe 3 or 4 months into dating. And I thought, it's just puppy love, it's new love, just let it pass. But then, after dating about 8 months, then I was like, alright, I don't care, this is it, this is the one. So I told my mom, I told her sister, everyone knew but my wife. Everyone knew but my wife. And what I did is I planned it all out. One of the very first things my wife and I ever did was go to Chengqinghu in Kaohsiung. My wife's family is in Kaohsiung, but she was in Taipei. And so I thought, okay, so this is an important place to us. We're going to go to Chengqinghu, and I'm going to propose. And inside the lake of Chengqinghu is like a small island with a bridge. So I planned it all out. I'm going to take her to that island, and I made a 3-meter by 3-meter sign that says, her name and will you marry me? And it's both in English and Chinese, so there's no question what I'm trying to do. And I talked to her family, and I told them, all right, so I'm going to take her to the island. You bring the sign to next to the lake. She'll read it. She'll be happy, cry, and yay, we'll be engaged. This was my plan. So I prepare everything, and the day that we're going to do it, I've already set it up as I'm going to take my wife to the lake because the weather is nice, and then I'll call her family, and her family, like 1 or 2 minutes later, will come to show the sign. But a few things started going wrong. One is my wife wears glasses, but she only wears glasses to read. If she's outside, she usually won't wear her glasses. But for her to see the sign, I need her to have her glasses. Second major problem is my wife has a habit of losing her glasses all the time. So even now, we're at home, her most common question to me is, where are my glasses? I'll be like, they're in the kitchen, they're on the 4th floor, they're in the refrigerator, I don't know why they're here. Because she'll just be like taking off her glasses and look at something, put her glasses down, and that's just where it is. So, as usual, that morning, my wife has lost her glasses. I know she needs her glasses. Her family knows she needs her glasses. And at that time, we're staying in my sister-in-law's house because we just moved to Kaohsiung. But my wife thinks we're just going to the lake to walk around, so she doesn't need glasses. So I'm like, honey, where are your glasses? And you're like, I don't know, it doesn't matter, we gotta go. I'll be like, no, very important. You need to have your glasses. Why? Because the sun is so beautiful, and you need to see how beautiful the sky is. So I tell my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law and my mother-in-law and all their families like desperately searching for, they're looking in the cars, we're looking on the house. My wife thinks we're crazy. She's like, we're just going to take a walk. We don't need glasses. So basically, as we tear apart the house, we find my glasses inside the closet for no reason. So everything's settled. So I take my wife to Chengqinghu. And as usual, my wife's not wearing her glasses. They're just hanging here. I get to the island, and I'm ready. And the island is tiny. And on the island is like one statue with a sign, like, what did Chiang Kai-shek do in what year? So, we get to the island, and like I have to like text my wife's family while she's not looking. It looks like I have another girlfriend, send a message. So they will start coming. Now, the plan is, from when I get there, it's going to take them like 2 minutes. Because there's a parking lot, and then you just walk down. But what happens is, for whatever reason, I don't know, it takes them much longer than 2 minutes. It takes like more than 5 minutes. And there's no reason to stay on this island. So, like I said, there's just one sign. So I have to get my wife to stay there. They're like, honey, what does the sign say? She's like, oh yeah, it's just some history thing, let's go. I'm like, no! very important. It's interesting. I want to know more about the sign. And so she would like translate it, and then I have to ask her, like, I have a history degree, so I like history, but my wife is not interested. But I have to keep her here. So I have to be like, no, tell me what happened at this time that would cause. So my wife thinks I'm crazy because we've been on this island for like no reason, for like 5 minutes. Finally, I see her family coming down the hill, and they have the huge sign. Now, her family is okay. Her sister, her mom, her sister's husband, and their child. 4 people. I know 4 people. But 4 people don't come down the hill. About 25 people come down the hill. So I'm confused because I know 4, 20, I don't know who they are. And they're carrying a huge sign. It says my wife's name, English and Chinese. And so, okay, this is the time. Prepare. I have the ring in my pocket. And the first thing I do is go, hey, honey, what's happening over there? Look, there's a big sign. And she doesn't put on her glasses. She just goes, hey, someone has my name. What? Because while she's looking, I'm preparing. Down on the knee. I'm looking at her with the love. And I'm like, well, why don't you look at the sign again with your glasses? She's like, I don't need to read a sign. We're just walking. I'm like, put on your glasses. Look at the sign. So she looks at the sign. And now I have the ring out. Like, for a year, I've loved you and prepared for this moment. And will you marry me? I'm here. This is what my wife is doing. Now, gentlemen, ladies, you should know this as well. I had to ask again, because she didn't say anything. So I have to use Chinese now. I used English. Maybe she didn't get it. All right, Chinese. I've prepared. I've learned how to say, will you marry me in Chinese? So, Chinese, will you marry me? All right, so she didn't hear me. 3rd time, English. Will you marry me? All right. Here's what happened. This probably took 30 seconds. But ladies, if a man is ever here for 30 seconds, he feels this could be 30 years. He doesn't know because this is. Yes, no, maybe. This is forever. Forever. Eventually, she says yes. Give her the ring. But what happens is, my wife has the same reaction that I do. She looks at the sign. She sees her name. Will you marry me? And she sees her family. But she also sees 20 people she doesn't know. Now I'm here. So in her brain it's going, this is for me. Maybe for me. This is for me. I don't know those people. Why are they here? For me. And it takes her a while to process until she says yes. So my wife and I start heading back across the pond. And all these people, the whole time that I'm on my knees, they're going, say yes, say yes. And then we come back to the side of the lake, and they're like, yay! And my wife and I are like, ooh, aren't these people? And even my wife's going, do you know them? And I'm like, I don't know them. This wasn't part of the plan. Well, what happened was, when my wife's family was coming down the hill with the sign, there was a tour group of doctors or nurses who had like a hospital vacation outing day. And they saw the sign, and they all went, oh, someone's getting married. Can we come? And my wife's family was like, yeah, sure, you can come. Because they don't think that this is going to be a problem. This was a problem, okay? So When we get there, like all these people are like, congratulations! We're like, we don't know you. So when they saw the sign, they asked the family if they could come. And so my family thought, it's not a big deal. So when they came, yeah, my wife is just sitting there making me wait forever. Seriously, it's forever to wait for that answer. But we don't know them. So this is one of, my best days, but also one of the most embarrassing and strangest days. Okay. So, now it's your turn. Again, take about, interest of time, we'll do like 6 minutes. Each person gets about 3 minutes to share. I want you to think about some successes in your life. Alright? What is your best day? What was an achievement you had? What's a proud moment? The reason we put proud moment and achievement a little different is because a lot of people have achievements. Maybe there's something in your life you did really, really well, but you don't really care that much. But there's other things that, for example, maybe you tried really, 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 really hard for just one test. And you pass that test, and all your classmates are like, that was easy, it's no problem. But for you, like, oh my God, I lived. It doesn't have to be about what other people think is a success. Your best day, your successes, your breakthroughs are a very personal thing. There are things that you have achieved that other people maybe think is normal or not that special. But for you, this took a lot of work. So think about your success stories. What are your breakthroughs? What are happy moments where everything just seems to go really, really well? Or, like my story, where everything goes really, really terribly, but it still works out okay. Alright? So take a minute, again, talk to your partner, share some stories together. Alright?
应该是我在冲，只是吵出来就应该是吵。要先停吗？会，还是我要走一下？
Director, the correct shot.
不然就是一下子就是走一下，不然就走一下。
对，不然有时候如果需要的时候再走过来就好。
Don't make me send your professor to choose people to share. But I would.
I would love to.
See, she's ready. So, anyone here wants to take that risk? Just come share your story. My dear Michelle, can you choose someone?
Sure.
Who shares a happy story?
Happy story?
Yes.
Well, I see Chan Yizhen, your group, you seem very happy when you talk to each other. Maybe you could share your story with us.
Share your success stories. Nothing too serious, just a happy story.
I have proud moments. When I was in high school, I had a little dance crew. We have a dance crew, and once we perform a really big performance, we take a lot of practice just to go around the city and be a flash mob. So just go there and play the music, and then dance for like 3 minutes, and then we gone. And we've been a flash mob for like many places in Thailand. It was like pretty proud moments for me. Yeah, like personal achievement.
Personal achievement. So, when you went into this flash mob, like, how did you feel before you started dancing, and then how did you feel after you started dancing?
Before we take a lot of practice, so we afraid that we make any mistake when we perform it. And after we feel like it's kind of cool and nobody knows you, and people watching you, and all these people are gone. So I don't know, it's like it's weird but fun.
Alright, so flash mobbing in Tainan. Anyone else have success stories they want to share? Okay, one more person, please. Don't make me send your professor on you again. See, no one's looking at me. Like there's nothing, I don't know who's talking. They must be under my desk. Who's talking? Anyone? Anyone share some happiness? A happy story. Alright. You choose another person.
Oh, you. Like Li Yunxi. Could you share one of your happy story with some of us?
You can do it! I believe you.
No happy story? No way.
You must have. You can share the failure story too. I won't stop you. You can do it. I saw you guys taking a lot of notes. There must be a story in there. Alright.
Day, my senior high school, I went happy, go home, and suddenly a clothes from the sky jumped to my head,
Oh!
like from bird. So I just before it jumped to my head, I have felt that something bad will happen, and in fact it did happen. So after that happened, I ran back to home and washed my hair several times, but I still feel uncomfortable about it.
It's always a really bad day. So you actually had like a premonition, like a feeling, like something's going to happen. So usually not a good feeling, because then you're just waiting. And then you don't feel like you can get clean again, right? It's a pretty bad day. Anyone else have either? See, we have a failure story, a bad day story, we have a good day story. Any other stories people can share with us? It can be a success or a fail story, either one. Get one more. One more. Otherwise, very boring class, just me talking. And, go to any class and listen to a teacher talk. And now is your time to talk. Share. Anyone else? I heard you guys laughing and talking very happily. There's no happy stories, really? Really? I don't believe you. Anyone else? Keep going, there will